Looking at their churn reports, most subscription leaders tell themselves a comforting story. They didn't see the value. They weren't our target. The product, it just isn't sticky enough. Then the scramble starts. More features, more onboarding steps, more emails, more value. But Canva's rise in a category long dominated by Adobe tells a different story. One that's less about adding and more about understanding. Melanie Perkins got the idea for Canva in a classroom. She was teaching design at university and watching smart people freeze in front of professional software that felt clunky, was expensive, and was built for full-time users. They weren't trying to become designers. They were trying to make something look decent on a deadline. That distinction matters because wants to design and needs to create are two different customers with two different definitions of success. At the time, the design software category was dominated by Adobe. They held a virtual monopoly on design professionals. Agencies had workflows, creative teams had standards, and if you wanted to be in the business of design, you had to use Adobe products. If you were a teacher building a lesson plan, a nonprofit manager posting an event flyer, or a small business owner launching a cupcake brand, the Adobe learning curve was massive and expensive. Canva started to solve a human problem. Capable people feeling incompetent because the tool spoke a language they didn't. The obvious risk wasn't building a simpler tool, however. The real risk was what happens after you find traction. When a product catches on, the customer base gets louder and more diverse. The requests pile up. Power users want control, teams want collaboration, enterprises want governance. Everyone wants just one more thing. This is where subscription businesses quietly reach a growth plateau because the experience, it becomes a compromise. To the beginner, when they open the dashboard, there's so many features they feel lost. The professional feels constrained. They're patronized because there's not the things there that they're looking for. And the enterprise buyer sees chaos and risk. It becomes one product and one onboarding flow with one key message, but great prospective lifetime subscribers, they quietly decide, this isn't for me. It really turns into a business system that transforms right fit potential subscribers into a growing list of short-timers who canceled before experiencing value. Canva's early moves to avoid this fate were deceptively simple. First, remove the blank canvas. Instead of greeting new users with an empty workspace and a blank cursor, which is the fastest way to trigger anxiety, Canva greeted them with templates organized by purpose: social posts, a pitch deck, business cards, lesson plans. The interface offered a starting point solution to most common design problems. A blank canvas, that's a test. Templates, they're reassurance. For everyday creators, reassurance is retention. When the second wave arrived, professional designers, Canva, they could have ignored them. Many companies do because serving pros can complicate a simple product. Or worse, they could have seized this marketing opportunity by changing the product to suit more feature-intensive tastes. Instead, Canva treated pros as a new segment with a different job to be done: speed, scale, consistency, collaboration. For them, Canva created brand kits to preserve fonts and colors across workflows that makes teams faster, and controls that reduce rework. Then, when larger organizations showed up, Canva built for what enterprises actually fear: uncontrolled content, off-brand assets, and security gaps. That meant admin controls, reporting, and governance without turning the tool into a compliance maze. Here's the part that most subscription companies miss. Canva didn't expand the product. It expanded its understanding of its users' most important needs. Each segment got a clearer path to the outcome that they wanted without forcing every other segment to walk through it. Canva has grown its community to more than 260 million monthly users. That scale is because of the feeling millions of customers get when the product meets them where they are. I can start fast. I won't look stupid. This fits how I work. This will still work when my needs grow. Those are the motions of retention at scale, and they're created long before someone ever reaches a cancellation screen, or they're never created. Subscription leaders treat high churn rates like a product problem. However, churn is a symptom of making the wrong assumptions about your subscriber and what they want. When teams guess who the customer is, they build generic onboarding, generic messaging, and generic value. They attract the wrong fit buyer and then spend months trying to save them. Right fit subscribers plus right fit experience equals durable growth. This Canva story is one piece of the Be Unleavable operating system. In my new book, Be Unleavable: Why Some Subscriptions Thrive While Others Stall and the 90-Day Fix, I break down how subscription businesses can stop guessing. I reveal how to replace "we think" with customer truth, and how to translate that truth into offers, onboarding, tiered pricing, and messaging that keep the right people longer. Retention isn't built by adding more value. It's built by making the right fit subscriber decide, this is for me. Pick up the book on Amazon, Be Unleavable: Why Some Subscriptions Thrive While Others Stall, and the 90-Day Fix.